This is Julian with 89.5 FM WSOU. I'm here with Morgan Lander from Kittie. They just put out a brand new album, Fire, after reuniting from almost 10 years since their latest album. How's everything going?
Oh, I mean, things have been wild. It's been a whirlwind the last couple of years, and especially in the last few weeks leading up to the release of the album, which is out now. It's been a lot of fun.
That's great. And how's everything been going? Like the whole process of releasing and promoting the new album. Is there anything that you missed about it or like really didn't miss about it?
I mean, the setup for getting ready to release an album, there are obviously a lot of pros and cons to everything. There's a business side of things where it's like you got to do this and you have to do this and here's a deadline, and those sometimes are the not fun things. But being a part of, obviously like the writing process, the recording process, and then when the album stuff is happening and we've got stuff like photos and videos and album concept and artwork to sort of help direct and everything like that. Like those to me, the artistic elements of things are the most fun, I think, part of being in a band, other than obviously like playing live, which is like what we all live for. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun, a lot of ups and downs to lead to this point.
Yeah, no, that's great. And it's been over 10 years since I failed you, and your vocals haven't skipped a beat. They're just as vicious and brutal as ever. Is there anything you feel that you did with this album that you never have before, like any new elements or approaches that set it apart from your earlier work?
Putting or having as much distance between the last album and this album certainly has helped us to grow. And in the last decade and a bit since we released an album, all of us we're still involved in music. We still played and wrote with other bands, and we're involved in other projects. And so I think it allowed us to sort of branch out and bring some fresh ideas and fresh energy to the table. As far as like vocals and stuff go, I mean, I just feel like I've learned a lot about myself and my vocals. I especially worked hard the last, I would say, 4 or so years on trying to find new voices and sort of change, well, not necessarily change things, but improve upon some of the techniques that I have or have been using before. And like as far as melodies and stuff are concerned, I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of evolution that's happened in the last decade and a bit, and you can certainly hear it in the music and the melodies and the lyrics and everything like that. So it's sort of just like Kitty 2.0, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And is there a song that you're the most proud of on this album or one that has a deeper meaning to it?
Well, all of them certainly have a deeper meaning, and there's a lot of concept that sort of runs through all of them. But I would have to say that my favorite album or my favorite song on this album would be, I think, the title track, Fire. There's just something about it that really, really gets me. I think it's a really fun opening song as well. It certainly gets the gives the listener like a taste of what's expected and sort of what's to come. And album openers are always a really it's important to sort of set the tone for the album. So for me, Fire is definitely it's got everything that I think a listener would expect from Kitty, and it certainly uh, sets the tone for what's to come.
And what was the idea behind like Fire? Like what made you decide to call the album Fire?
Well, I mean, it is kind of funny that a lot of people that have listened to it and are really enjoying it are like, yes, this album really is fire, haha. And all of that, all of that aside, I think there is a lot of concept and themes that sort of run through many of the songs that involve the idea of fire, and because a lot of imagery of things like witch trials and things like that are sort of part of a lot of the thematic landscape of this album. Like fire is a part of that. It can cleanse, it can destroy. Also, there is the phoenix that is reborn out of the ashes of destruction of with fire. And so these are all things that have sort of come into play in naming the album. There's just a lot of that imagery, and it only makes sense for it to be called that, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And can you tell me what it was like getting back together to play a show? Like what it was like playing when we were young and Sick New World?
Oh gosh, it was so much fun. I mean, getting back together and doing all this stuff has been such a pleasure. I feel like we are, it's like the more things change, the more that they stay the same. We are all a lot, and everything like that. But I think there's just such a magical chemistry between us, and we're all in just such a great place in all of our lives that it just feels so right to be just playing and rekindling our friendships and things like that again. Playing when we were young was amazing. That was sort of the first real opportunity that we had to get back together, and it was sort of their request for Kitty to be reunited that was the catalyst for all of this. Really, we received something, an email from them seeing if we wanted to play the festival, and we were like, wow, it's an offer that we just couldn't say no to. It was a really great idea. And from there, it was like we played the shows, and then we played Sick New World. We played Sick New World again last year. Here's hoping we're going to be back for 2025 as well. But it is all life though. We have such a great time on stage and playing all of these festivals and being able to see so many people is really uh we're just really grateful. It's been a really, really great time so far, and we're just gonna keep at it.
That's so great to hear. The way that I discovered Kitty actually was through a band at a local show like 2 or 3 years ago.
Mhm.
Surprisingly, I hadn't heard you before. It was an all-girl band cover. They covered Brackish, and I
Amazing.
thought it sounded so sick and went from there. How do you feel about releasing music now that the industry's changed and the way that people consume and find new music is so different with like social media, streaming being the primary forms and the decline of physical media?
Yeah, well, I feel like in coming back sort of around again with releasing and setting up a release of an album, there's a lot of different learning curves I think that we sort of had to get involved in as far as sort of really leaning into like the social media aspect of things. Like I find it so fascinating that like full careers and full albums are driven by social media, and like you get discovered on TikTok, and it's like people sell albums that way, and it's just such a strange thing, coming from a world where by no means am I old, but 25 years ago, like people were doing street teams and handing out demos, like those types of things, and a lot of that. But there is still a lot of physical media that people are interested in. It's just sort of more like a collector's piece, like we released the album and people are streaming and they're listening to it in these new ways, and that's great. But like people are also like buying vinyl, like and like really stoked on it. And I think it's interesting that now a physical media is more like a collector's piece rather than something that like a CD that you just put in your car and wear out. It's like it sits on the shelf as part of the experience, and I think that's really cool. We're a little bit old school, and so there has been a lot of learning involved, but it hasn't actually been as scary and daunting as I maybe thought it would be. Like you'll never find me doing like a TikTok dance or anything like that to our songs, but like more power to those who do. So.
That's awesome. And on that note, are there any young new bands coming out right now that you really like?
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like when I say like, oh yeah, like these young new bands that I'm listening to. I mean, I guess they're not, some people are not that young, but like, there's so many amazing women that have flourishing careers these days. I'm trying to think bands like NPO, bands like Spirit Box, they're huge. People like Nita Strauss, who's also on Sumerian Records. I wouldn't say that they're necessarily new, but like they certainly Ginger even like just amazing women doing stuff, and I'm so into supporting uh women doing metal and helping to sort of move the needle, and so yeah, bands like that I'm super into. Incredible vocalists, incredible musicians. Being a part of the scene is it's what I'm here for.
Yeah, 100%. And I remember hearing in a documentary that you put out a few years back, Kittie Origins, Evolutions. I remember hearing that the background vocals in Brackish were actually inspired by Static X. I found that really cool. Are there any artists in particular that you think were your biggest influences, either back then to help shape your sound or even with this new album?
Oh yeah, I mean, we obviously like it sort of stands alone in our timeline of albums just because obviously our first release and we were super young and we were very influenced by a lot of the new metal stuff and the new metal scene. And yeah, even like a song like Breakfast itself, it sort of has a little bit of like an industrial element to things that has never really appeared on any of our other songs. And I think, bands like Static X and, Canadian band like Econoline Crush, stuff like that, like, even like Fear Factory and things like that, like those were sort of bands that we were like, this is really cool. We wanted to sort of experiment and try something out. So yeah, there was a lot of influence early on by a lot of new metal stuff. And even to this day, there's like a couple of albums and I guess that maybe could be considered new metal that are still like big influences and that I would say I still listen to. I did listen to a lot um, during the writing of Fire. Nothing Face. They were, a band sort of, I guess, late 90s, early 2000s. I don't think they had as huge success as maybe they probably should have, but Tom Maxwell, the guitar player, went on to play in Hell Yeah. Yeah, the riffs and everything like that. It's I would say it's kind of new metal leaning, but not really. He's got a style all his own, and I think that band in particular, they just had a thing that I think transcends the genre, and I still am listening to some of their albums to this day to be like, get in the mood, feel the vibe.
What can you tell me about what it was like entering the industry at such a young age?
It was pretty wild. I know I can't swear on the radio, but it was definitely some expletives there. Um, yeah, it was a really wild and strange trip. We had so much happen so early on, so fast, that I really think that there wasn't a lot of time to consider or absorb a lot of the things that were happening to us. There was a lot of expectation and a lot of responsibility put on us. And that's really hard when you're 15 or 16 years old. And so there was a lot riding on all of it, and things blew up so quickly that, sometimes I don't think that we realized the gravity or the impact that we were having at the time. And looking back now, 20, 25 years later, um, it it was certainly a different music industry. It was a different time, and we really were sort of what really one of the only female sort of bands like in the I guess the new metal genre and in metal that were sort of doing what we were doing at the time, and we certainly did have a lot of visibility, and I think we took a lot of hits for it as well. I think a lot of times when you are blazing a trail, a lot of times the earliest people um don't always they always get the kicked out of them, so to speak. So yeah, it was definitely um, a lot of crazy stuff, but we survived, and here we are, right? I think definitely learned a lot very early on in life, and I think take those lessons all the way to adulthood. So yeah, I think it's part of the reason why we're still here.
Yeah, definitely. You guys did overcome. And what do you think that out of all of that, the biggest challenge was?
Um, I mean, looking back early on, I feel like really just being taken seriously as musicians, I think was one of the more challenging aspects of being in this band. We were up against a lot. We were up against a lot of people who didn't believe that we were really playing, who didn't believe that we were writing those songs, who didn't want to even give us the time or the benefit of the doubt to like take a listen and actually see that we were doing amazing things. And so, yeah, I think it was pretty tough and very tough on a young person's psyche to be exposed to a lot of that stuff too.
Yeah, for sure. And do you think if you maybe had a different name that you wouldn't have had those challenges, or you maybe would have not even had the success that you had with a different name?
Like a different band name.
Yeah, like if it wasn't named Kitty, if it was like anything else.
No, I think that the only thing that the name has really brought to us was like a lot of like puns that journalists, were easy like to do, like, oh, Kitty has claws and all that stuff. But I think, yeah, like I recognize now as like a 40 something year old woman that the band name is definitely like it sounds like something a 14-year-old would think is great, and that's true. We were 14 when we titled the band, but I don't think that having a different name would have changed any of the exposure or the experience, because I think at the core of it all, it was the music and it was the aesthetic and it was what we stood for and it was our attitude, and those all of those things I think transcend the band name in general. So we could have been called anything, and I think it probably would still have had a similar impact.
Yeah, for sure. And then do you have anything that you view as your magnum opus? That's something that you're just really proud of, a favorite song or album you've ever made?
Oh gosh. I mean, there's definitely every album has its own thing, right? Like it's got its own and it has its high points. I always like to think that like, what we're doing now is our best work. And I always like to look to the future as well. I don't like to say, oh, well, this is our magnum opus, because I still feel like maybe the best is yet to come. And having been given this second chance and the second opportunity to put music out, I would also like to say that. But I think for now, like I think Fire is everything that Kitty is and more. It represents 25 years of triumph and tragedy. It represents all of the growth that we've and sacrifice that we've made over the years. And so I think, the fact that it's been so well received, I would say that's our magnum opus. That's our it's a testament to our legacy, having been away for so long and been able to come back and still pull that shit off. Uh, so yeah, I'll say Fire. I think that's it.
Yeah, that's great. And that's such a great outlook for you to have on your art. So us, WSOU, we helped to break the mold for a lot of bands. We gave them a platform that nobody else would. We were one of the first to play Kitty, and not you guys, you played at WSOU's Extreme Attitude event back in 2000. It was
Mhm.
in Vernon, New Jersey at a ski resort. We had people watching on the snow. Do you have any
Yeah.
memories from that show or any memories with WSOU in general?
Yeah, I will. I mean, okay, so first of all, yes, WSOU has always been a huge part of Kitty. I have so many memories, so many stories about, just going to the studios and seeing, other people in bands hanging out and doing interviews, things like that. The ski resort show, I have vivid memories of. And I still have some photos, I think, like tangible photos of that day. I remember it being so cold. And playing a show in the winter, like people were skiing by us. It was very strange, but it was so cool to have this really neat sort of opportunity. I think it was a really cool idea. I remember, I think Snapcase played as well. I remember checking out their stuff, but I just remember being very cold because you don't want to wear like a big winter jacket when you're playing guitar and stuff. And so I remember I had like a little gray zip up hoodie. And I vividly recall my fingers, like, when they get cold, they're just not working the way that they should. But overall, it was such a fun day. It was a really neat concept for a show. And yeah, I still have very vivid memories of playing and the other bands, and also how cold it was.
That's really awesome. And actually, Funeral for Yesterday was recorded in Red Bank, New Jersey, I believe back in 2006.
Mhm.
What can you tell me about the time you spent here in New Jersey? And did you have any prior or any lasting impressions of New Jersey?
Oh yeah, I mean we had a great time. We actually spent 2 months living in Red Bank, and Red Bank is like it's kind of like a small little place. We had such a great time, just visiting local restaurants and shops. Yeah, it was a really great experience. New Jersey's always been great though. We have a long uh, a long history, a long love affair. Going back to like the days of like Birch Hill, like come on, like all the way back in the day. So yeah, yeah, it was a great time, great studio, a lot of fun. It felt like summer camp. We were staying at an apartment all summer. It was like a fun summer activity to like, record an album and get to be working with your best friends.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. And then I do love Red Bank. It's a cute little town.
Yeah.
Over the span of your career, do you have any really striking memories, like a show that really sticks with you or fan interaction?
Um, I mean that's tough. To some things that when you have been doing it for so long, but like there are definitely key moments and key cities, tours that always are like, wow, I can't believe that we did this, that we had this opportunity. Things like getting to take part in the Odds Fest, that was incredible. Getting to see Pantera every night, playing for the Reinventing the Steel tour. Like that was awesome. Having the opportunity to open up for Slipknot on their what I believe was their very first national headlining tour. Like we were the first band on. That was really huge. Playing in South America for the first time was incredible as well. The Soundwave Festival in Australia, that was such an incredible festival. Playing Beast Feast in Japan was also really cool. That was like Pantera and Slayer headlining, and so many amazing metal bands were playing as well. Like the list just goes on and on and on. It's been wild.
Definitely, definitely. And do you have any side projects that were really important to you?
I mean, yes, absolutely. You know, I've been in Kitty for a really, really long time, and it's been a huge part of my identity in my life. But when we were on hiatus, I was able to explore a little bit more as far as branching out and playing with other musicians. And I had the opportunity to play some shows with a band called Car Chaos from Montreal. We actually recorded an album, and we are hoping that eventually that will come out. And so that was a really amazing experience because they are next level musicians, and the style of music is a little bit more extreme. And so I was able to really push the limits of my vocal abilities in order to sort of get up to their level. So that was really incredible learning experience for me. And there's also another project that I was working on called Winterlust, which is more electronic stuff. And we've like I think gone over the album like 3 or 4 times now. I think what maybe one day it'll come out. It is very different than anything that I've done before, but I think the songs are dark and mysterious and sad and incredible. And I hope that one day the world gets to hear both of those.
No, yeah, that's sweet. I really can't wait to hear that. And what this is a little bit of a deep question, but what do you want your legacy or the legacy of Kitty as a whole to be?
Oh wow, that is a very deep question. Wow, you're hitting all the hard subjects, especially like towards
Sorry to
the
throw
end
that at
things.
you.
Oh no, it's totally fine. I mean, it's a big question, right? I think for Kitty, legacy is super important. I think to be remembered as the ones who dared. I think to be remembered as the ones who were defiant enough to go and do it when others told us no. We did come up against a lot of that, especially early on, and we just have a filter. I think to be able to say that we helped contribute to the advancement of acceptance of women in extreme music and in metal. I think having a small part in that also is a big part of our legacy. And making sure that there is representation for women in metal as well. I think is also a big part of our legacy. You know, there are so many things. You know, the that we surround ourselves with. You know, we have so many incredible Kittie fans from all different communities, and we love them all equally. And I think also, you know, for a lot of people, providing um, a safe space and a place where you can go to a show and feel included and feel like you can be yourself, no matter what yourself is. Those are also parts, I think, of our legacy that need to have a light shined on them. So, yeah, like there's a lot of moving parts. Um, but I think, you know, ultimately, if the music makes you feel something, you know, that's good enough for us.
Yeah, definitely. That's amazing. You've definitely provided that safe space and inspired so many people, so many bands, so many women. So what can you tell me about what's next for Kitty? More music, more shows, anything you can tell us? I know that this month coming up, you've got a show at Warsaw in Brooklyn. Super
Yes,
stoked for that.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, the album has been released. People are already listening. We're getting the word out there, and it was super important for us to do a few headlining shows as well, sort of saying, hey, we're back. You know, while it's not like an extensive tour, these are very like exclusive headlining shows. And we'll be at Warsaw in Brooklyn on July 19th. The tickets are still available. So it's your opportunity to come and hear all kinds of songs, old and new. And yeah, from there we'll see what happens. I think more shows are going to be in the works, more festivals. I think the possibility of some celebrations in the future of past work and also new music always will be on the horizon for us. I think this whole experience with releasing this new album has reinvigorated us in a way that we were not prepared for. So we are we're down to just keep on keeping on, I think.
That's great, and I'm so excited to see what's to come. With that being said, would you guys be open to either a headlining tour or hopping on somebody else's tour?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think for right now, the stuff that we're doing this summer, including the Warsaw show, is very much just sort of like let's test the waters out, get feeling good again about headlining. You know, it's been a very long time since we've done a headlining show, but more touring, a more extensive headlining tour definitely is something we would like to explore, and also being a part of someone else's tour is something that we've always wanted to do. And I think when the right opportunity comes, we will make sure it happens.
That's so awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. It's been awesome. I'm loving the album. And yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Julian. It was great to
And
talk to you.